regulations. He's talking about these things that are going to help boost the economy. So, and we've seen the Dow hit record high as well. And so, you know, we're seeing a lot of signs of confidence on what the Trump administration is going to bring.
Let me bring it to Wanda. Why is the media just relentlessly trashing the guy when we're talking about some of the most important things to the people, to the voters, are jobs, the economy, making life better for themselves and their families.
Well,
and
I
it's
think,
working.
Well, I don't know that it's working. I mean, I would say on jobs, and I would just point this out to everybody at the table, you look at the record of accomplishment, you say, oh my gosh, 4.7% unemployment. I think that's what Obama took it to at one point, was 4.7, and it's just 1/10 of a percentage point down from what Obama had it last month, right? So, I mean, okay.
But here's the difference, if I could just point this out very quickly and clarify that, because this is really important. Wages are actually going up. And
they were going up at the end of Obama.
Yeah, but you know what? This president is going to get credit for that, and also the labor force participation rate. That is a more essential and truthful barometer than the unemployment number
I
itself.
just know unemployment's been around since my whole life, right? And that's what. But I will also ask this of you, Gregory.
Yes.
You were saying compared to Obama, and I think, wait a minute, let's go back to 2009. Obama, by this point, had an $800 billion stimulus plan to get us out of recession. Plus, he had passed the Women's Pay Equity. I know.
I was against that too, as you know.
And get clean water.
I hate everything good.
But I mean, compared to
poison
Obama,
the water in Flint.
Yeah. You know what's,
I like that.
No, but Juan, there is a downside to this this increase in labor participation. There are fewer people who are going to protest because they'll be working, and you're going to have to start creating more days, like, you know, women's a day without women, so that they can take time off to protest because now they have jobs.
That's how you really make the unemployment number go down. You count the protesters as employed.
And they do. Some of them do get paid.
Talk to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and say, you know, these protesters
Soros pay
should be counted.
But to Juan's point, confidence really does matter, because if businesses feel that the economic climate is going to get better, that we're going to see this decrease in regulations that have been keeping them down, that have been preventing them from wanting to grow and expand, that matters. And we're seeing signs of confidence throughout the market, as I mentioned earlier, whether it's consumer confidence, whether it's businesses announcing the fact that they're going to stay in America, that they're going to keep jobs in America. All this stuff matters because it adds up, and we win at the end.
And at some point, though, it's going to have to be more than theoretical optimism.
Agreed.
It's going to have to be more than promises. You're going to have tax reform, and they're going to have to chip away at financial regulations.
Absolutely.
You know, dismantling parts of Dodd-Frank. Sorry, Juan.
I agree with you 100% that a lot of these numbers, the jobs numbers, the employers putting on more employment, people spending, all these things are based on that tax reform. And they're going to have a bit of a dance here, the Trump administration, because you want to make sure Obamacare gets fixed, not only repealed but replaced, but you also want to have time for that tax reform. And for some stupid reason, Congress can't figure out how to do both at the same time. Procedurally, they can't do it. Now, Juan, you spent a lot of time in D.C. Why can't they do two things at once?
Wait a second, I'm so curious. So you're attacking Republican leadership in Congress? I thought the people in the Freedom Caucus were your pals.
The Freedom Caucus are my pals, and I think they're right.
Well,
on.
they're right. Well, they're opposed.
Not let the GOP, what do you call it, Rhino Care bill pass through just to get it through so you can get to the next step.
I tell you what, talk to Greg and talk to Lisa, talk to Kennedy, because I don't want to get in the middle of a family feud.
Okay.
I don't think it's something before the
I'm all for fixing.
The real answer is there's no answer. Why can't Congress do two things at once?
I think they actually are. There are some procedures that's why they're breaking it down. And I don't think they're lying to anybody about it. They're telling people this is how it's going to be done. And remember, I mean, you call it Rhino Care, but President Trump wasn't the most conservative candidate up there. That was Ted Cruz. I think the big news to come from these numbers, okay, they're not blowing everybody's mind. It just shows that the country is resilient, that the media can create a hysterical narrative about President Trump, that the world's going to hell, or everything's the apocalypse. But the country keeps going. The jobs are growing, unemployment's coming down. America keeps going, even though the media says it's disastrous. So I think that it's a story about a country, not just about a politician.
And it's interesting, how is Nancy Pelosi going to spin positive jobs numbers without looking like she's against American workers, which is the biggest problem the Democrats have right now?
She'll find a way.
Yeah, isn't that what
Never-
they did to
never
Obama?
doubt old man.
Isn't that what they did to Obama?
And she'll do it with a straight face.
Oh my God.
Hardly moves at all, right?
This president is putting America first, and one of his predecessors isn't happy about it. Former President Bill Clinton trashing nationalism. Next.
People turned out by the tens of millions, and they were all united by one very simple but crucial demand, that America must put its own citizens first, because only then can we truly make America great again.
President Trump keeps touting his America First agenda, and it sounds like former President Bill Clinton may have just taken a swipe at it in his first major speech since his wife lost the presidential election.
All over, where people who claim to want the nation state are actually trying to have a pan-national movement to institutionalize separatism and division within national borders all over the world. We're going to live in an us and them world, or a world that we make together. In every age and time, eventually, the challenges we face can be resolved in a way that keep us going forward instead of taking it to the edge of our own destruction.
Wow, so it's us versus them, right? It's separatism, division within borders, and that's what's going on around the world, says Bill Clinton.
It sounds like a word problem he's trying to put together from a 7th grade algebra book, and he's failed in his example. I don't think he made a very forceful case, especially on his wife's behalf. And, you know, you look at a lot of the country who feels like there has been leadership in Washington, whether it's Republican, Democrat, executive, or legislative, that haven't been fighting for them. And I think one of the things that people respond to from both parties to this president is the idea that there's someone in the White House who is looking out for them. And yes, it may be appealing to these sort of base instincts, but they're not always negative. And a lot of people feel that the United States' reputation was damaged on the world stage by President Obama, who really wanted to be liked.
Well, so when I break this down, Eric, what I see is a real appeal and says, you know what? I don't like those elites. I don't like those people on the blue states on the East Coast and West Coast, Hollywood and Wall Street. I don't like the globalists. That's a lot of Steve Bannon's type thinking, right? I'm worried about these immigrants. I don't like these terrorists. Is that a fair assessment?
And Bill Clinton is, I think he's being disingenuous here. He's taking nationalism, and he's taking some of the historic ideas of nationalism, where you think of the race and you know, the ethnic cleansing and whatnot.
Correct. Yeah.
But that's not what Trump ran on. He ran on a nationalism, but it was an economic nationalism. Basically saying, we're going to take care of this country first. We're not going to get involved in trade deals that don't benefit this country, these massive trade deals, TPP, NAFTA, et cetera. Instead, we'll do bilateral deals with each one of these countries if we want to do that. And also, you do point out exactly, it's been a Bannon theory going out that the elites, the historic elites in D.C. are not to be trusted for good reason. I mean, we don't get bang for a buck the way we should or have in the past. So I think economic nationalism, not the
Nazism?
Nazism type of nationalism. Yeah.
Let's hope. I don't want any part of that one. Lisa, but in fact, it's interesting to me, free trade has always been a Republican claim. I mean, Republicans believe in free trade. So this is not a Republican
Can I
Party.
say something?
Sure.
Free trade agreements aren't free.
No, but guess what? All the
Am I
evidence,
right?
all the evidence from economists are that, in fact, NAFTA and these other deals have benefited the American
But
economy.
oftentimes, I mean, I will disagree in that I think trade agreements that foster more trade are better than total restrictionism. And, you know, I would love to see absolute free trade. And, like, people, individuals, corporations making decisions for themselves without applications and projections from the federal government.
Well, I think
Agreed.
what's interesting, too, is it was also Bill Clinton who has, you know, essentially tried to make President Trump and then candidates Trump's slogan, "Make America Great," some sort of racist dog whistle. But guess who used that slogan in 1992 throughout various speeches? Bill Clinton himself. So I think a lot of this, I think he has a reason or two to feel a little bit bitter from the election, perhaps the fact that his wife lost and he thought she was going to win. But also to Kennedy's earlier point, I think President Trump's election was a response to this feeling like Americans no longer had a fighter. And part of that was because you have a president in President Obama who in his first 100 days literally apologized for America to 3 separate continents. And there's also this feeling, and President Trump appealed to those Americans who felt like nobody was fighting for them in Washington. He repeatedly said on the campaign trail, to the Americans who feel left behind. Those are the people that he reached out to. So, I think a little bit this is just, bitterness on behalf of Bill Clinton and also disingenuous.
So, Greg, I want to ask you a serious question, but I can't ask you a serious question because I imagine that you are ready to talk about Bill Clinton's voice.
No. I'm just, it's just Bill Clinton. He's always sticking himself in places he shouldn't.
He's always
He
what?
needs to get another hobby. He needs to get another hobby in which he will not be brought up on charges. Look, I have a suggestion for Bill and Hill. They got to get a reality show because their political careers are done. They can't do this anymore. I would watch a show on Netflix of them just rummaging around their house, trying to find something to put on.
Hiking in Rhode Island?
Yeah, but you know what's...
And their matching tunics?
Exactly. But the thing is, what Bill Clinton, he's got to understand, the Bill Clinton of 92 would have to be a Republican now, because that's how much his party has changed.
Yeah.
His beliefs in immigration are no different than Trump's. Back in 92, we've run tape of that, and I think this is really just a reaction to a missing piece. There's no formidable Democratic Party right now, so you have these old pros. They're like people in high school who graduated but still hang around. That's what they are. They're just hanging out because they know that the quarterback at the high school sucks and that they still got a good arm.
I did hear that the donations to the Clinton Foundation have dropped something like 35% since she lost.
Yeah, well, that would make sense because...
because it was influence peddling.
That wasn't influence peddling.
Yeah, if you're not going to buy the presidency,
Think about a reality show.
access to
Bill
the
and
president.
Hill. Bill and Hill.
Would anyone watch that, though? Do you
I
think
would
boring that
love
would
it.
be?
Bill and Hill on the Hill.
Yes.
Or just Hillbilly.
Or the Hills.
Or they could just play reruns of them at the
you know what I
convention,
wanted to
and
say
the
to you?
balloons are everywhere.
I don't think Ronald Reagan would be a Republican. He wouldn't be in Donald Trump's
Yeah,
Republican.
but to Greg's point, Bill Clinton in 92 is on criminal justice is slightly to the right of Jeff Sessions.
Yeah,
I agree.
that's true.
No, that's fair.
That is true.
That's fair, but not on tax deals. Next, is the media too sensitive when it comes to President Trump? A guy who had to face the press daily for President Obama thinks that's the case. You'll hear about it straight ahead. And later, we're going to take you around the world, live to Africa, to catch up with Dana Perino on her special trip overseas. Stay tuned.
Sometimes it's all I've got to
Well, welcome back. President Trump hasn't let up on the media since winning the White House.
The press has become so dishonest that if we don't talk about it, we are doing a tremendous disservice to the American people. And I watch CNN, it's so much anger and hatred. And you see the bias and the hatred. And the public is smart. They understand it.
I think it's safe to say that many reporters haven't taken it well. Well, Josh Earnest thinks that they need to toughen up. The former Obama press secretary made a really good point earlier this week. He said that the media is too thin-skinned, particularly for an institution that's focused on critiquing people in power. All right, Kennedy, I got to go to you first on this. Is the media too thin-skinned?
Yeah, absolutely. And you see, a lot of disparity in reporting between these administrations. And I think now that the president is forcing some of these questions, sometimes appropriately, sometimes bombastically, what it does is it allows people who consume news and information say, well, what is journalism? What questions are they supposed to be asking? How are they supposed to be doing their jobs? And am I getting an honest depiction of what's going on in Washington and beyond? And, for reporters and journalists, it forces them to go back and do a lot more work. And I think they thought that they could just follow the Twitter feed and have the story blossom before them. And now they're realizing that essentially you have to dig into it. And I think they should take the challenge and prove the president wrong.
Well, and Juan, so Kennedy's talking about, sort of this pushback on the media a little
I'm having
bit.
trouble with your image on the... it says CNBC behind your head, Lisa. It's the weirdest thing. MSNBC. I think she works for Fox, guys. Put Fox back there.
Yeah, I'm not going there.
Thank you.
No, once I want to.
And Eric's the
All right. This is going off the rails. No, we're fast. One, I want to ask you though.
Right.
So, I mean, the media should be held accountable, right? So, I mean, there's been a lot of narratives that are being driven lately that aren't substantiated by facts. One, that somehow, the election was changed by the Russians, that the trajectory of the election was changed. And then two, also that there's some sort of collusion when you have even the former DNI director recently said that he has found no such thing. So do you think there's a danger in the media really driving and hunkering down on these narratives without fact or evidence?
Well, one, I think that there is evidence that the Russians interfered in the election.
Not
Collusion.
changing the election.
Well, they changed the election because I think that without a doubt, Hillary Clinton's trustworthy honesty numbers were in the tank, and it was a constant issue for voters.
Or she didn't go to a state like Wisconsin.
That's a fact,
Probably
too.
didn't
But you're
help.
asking me if it had an impact. Yeah, it did. But here's the thing, Lisa. I think that's a big issue to say that the press is thin-skinned when you also have the Trump administration doing things like keeping certain people out of briefings, or when you have a situation where the president's talking about fake news or telling CNN reporters to their face that they're nothing but fake reporters. I think it's important
Then
for the press to
prove the president
assert
wrong.
that they have a right to operate under our Constitution, a free press.
Well, so Eric, so President Trump has labeled the media, an enemy of the people. He's called them fake news. But there's a Quinnipiac poll that showed that 39% of voters believe that certain institutions, certain news organizations are an enemy of the people. Do you think his accusations have had an impact on the way people view the media?
I don't think you get any worse. I think going into the presidency, the media had something like a 9% approval rating, and they're probably about the same right now. But I think this is brilliant strategy. I think it is a strategy by the Trump administration to keep taking shots at the media because they're so gullible. They're so thin-skinned. Josh Reynolds is right about that they fight back. Look at those press conferences. Look at when Trump gives a press conference. Look when Spicer's up there. They're falling over themselves. They get questions in, follow-up questions. Everyone watches. People tune into the press conference. People get back to their office to tune into the press conference. But what it's doing, though, is bringing out the worst part of the media and bringing out the best part of Trump. If they were really, what's the worst thing in the world? Is when they're not talking about you, right? So that's all they're doing. Trump said this about us. Can you believe it? We can't stand him. Can you believe what he said that about us today?
All right, Greg, I want to get Greg in here. Greg,
Yes.
what do you think of all this?
Of what?
Any of it?
No, you have to be. What's your problem? Why? Seriously, what is your problem?
No, okay.
Answer the question. What do you have? You have a problem with me? Is that it?
I was going to talk to you between the commercial
You know what?
break.
Forget it. Forget it. They are not thin-skinned, okay? Is that the answer you want? No, you know what's funny?
So defensive.
What drives me
I see what you're doing there, though. That's smart.
Okay. What drives me crazy about the media...
I was getting nervous.
What are you really... The media has changed so much. So now that they've got this new, hyper-aggression, we're in Bernstein, but they were like, I call it, they were Obama-tose. They were comatose under Obama for 8 years.
Yeah.
They weren't... all you have to do is compare two things that are relatively similar. Trump's rollout of his change to the Obama health care plan, Obamacare, and the actual rollout of Obamacare. The media, during the rollout of the Obamacare thing, everything was fine. They didn't really care about it because that was their guy, and the American public had to figure it out for themselves. You had to figure out what Obamacare was because the media wasn't going to do that for you. Now, they are picking apart every little thing that Trump does with this revision, and it shows you that now they're working because they don't like this guy, but prior to that, they loved the guy, so they were Obama-tose.
Well,
Copyright Greg Gutfeld.
we're gonna try to calm Greg down during the break, but
I'm thin-skinned.
yeah, clearly.
You can see right through me.
All right. All right. Well, stay right there because Facebook Friday is coming up next.
Facebook Friday, your answers are our questions, and vice versa. Oh, look at that. Forgot about that thing. Wow, it takes forever, doesn't it? All right, from Tammy D, starting with you, Kennedy.
All right, very good, thank you.
If you could be a character in your favorite movie or TV show, who would you be?
The first one that comes to mind is Bishop Pickering from Caddyshack, because he was an Episcopalian bishop who became, I'm not an atheist, but he became an atheist after one bad hole of golf.
Oh, yeah.
You remember he played golf and a lightning
In the
storm.
rain.
In the rain. He missed the final putt on the 18th hole and gave up the cloth and became a total booze bag.
Nice. Juan?
Wow, that was a good one. I think I might be Patrick Swayze. Is that Dirty Dancing?
Yes.
I
of
love
course.
that. You know, I just love that. I like John Travolta in Saturday Night Live. What's that? Saturday Night
Saturday Night Fever.
Fever. There you go.
Yeah.
Also, I like.
He gets the ladies.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also like.
One uses his walk.
Yes. I also like Bugs Bunny and Space Jams.
You are a strange man, Juan. Eric?
Very eclectic group. Yeah.
He wants to be a bunny or a disco dancer.
So my favorite TV shows are Billions, Walking Dead, and Homeland. Of those three, I would be Rick. But the best reality show in the world, the best character I would love to play, would be Reince Priebus in the Trump show, the reality show going on in D.C. Can you imagine being next to the president every day and just having that going on? That'd be amazing.
Wait, who was Rick?
He's the
Walking
Walking
Dead.
Dead. He's the cop from the very beginning. He's lasted 6 seasons.
He's not dead.
Lisa, what do you think?
I forget who the lead like maybe a League of Their Own, right? Because that would be an interesting
But you're
time
going to be around
have.
Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna. So lucky.
Well, now that you put it that way, I mean, I retract that. Or like Thelma and Louise, because it might be interesting to
Yeah, that
live
ends,
life
that ends great for them.
dangerously.
Yeah.
Oh, Brad Pitt, young Brad Pitt, though.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. You know what I'd be?
Things to think about. Food for
Hal?
thought.
Shallow Hal?
No, Hal.
Hal,
From 2001 Space Odyssey. I would be the artificial intelligent computer that runs everything.
Dave, why are you touching my circuit?
Yes, I would be that. And I would live forever inside a box, which has kind of been my dream all along. Anyway.
Dream big, Greg.
Yeah, I
dream
know.
big.
All right, let's go this way, Lisa. I'm going to go to you.
Oh, God.
Bonnie M. writes, if you were elected president, name 2 people you would like on your cabinet.
Jeez. Well,
And they can be at this table.
pick.
Living or dead?
I'll pick Eric for Treasury Secretary, and then I'll pick you for some sort of like futuristic
Yes.
robot cabinet choice.
Robot
We talk
cabinet.
about it a lot, yeah. And I'd want to make your dreams come true. And you can live in a box.
I would love to live in a box.
We'll just keep you in a nice little box.
Gimp Gutfeld.
Eric?
What? From Pulp Fiction? With a, no.
Yes.
Ew. 2 people I would have on my staff. That's a rough one. Steve Bannon.
Oh,
I'm
my
kidding.
God.
No, I love Steve. I don't even know. I don't know. Honestly, I like Mark Cuban, and I think he'd be a great Treasury Secretary. Something to do with the economy and defense. Who would I do? Who would
Juan.
No, I think Petraeus.
That's a good choice. Juan, how about you?
Well, I mean, I would follow in the Trump mode. So I would get Warren Buffett, right? Because I get a billionaire, right? I could have Warren Buffett run the economy, right? I could get George Soros, right? He's another billionaire, right? So I'd have people like that. But, you know, I think I'd really like really smart people, you know? So you'd have to, like, get the best scientists.
Yes.
So like us.
Yes. That's what I was thinking, Lisa.
I thought so,
Stephen
yeah.
Hawking.
Stephen Hawking.
I would have as my chief of staff Martha Stewart, because she's incredibly well organized.
Very resilient.
She knows how to run a giant organization, and she's been to prison, so she can fight.
Yes, that's so true.
And that may be the best qualification. And then I would probably have Milton Friedman be my Treasury Secretary.
Ooh,
He's
very
dead.
good.
He's dead.
I would
You know what?
choose-
His soul lives forever.
That is true, especially if he's downloaded into a machine, which brings me to my choice would be Nick Bostrom, who wrote Superintelligence, who is the guy that knows everything about artificial intelligence and how it's going to destroy all of us. And then I'd have one of the Olsen twins.
Why?
Just for
No reason.
For good measure?
I just want
Which
people to
one?
wonder which one. I would never say which one it
it
is.
Mary-
Yeah, people would be. It's a way to throw off foreign powers and go. We don't like. Imagine you got to have a meeting, but you don't know which Olsen twin it is. It's kind of just.
It only works if
would it
one's
really
a
matter,
statist
though?
and one's a capitalist.
Exactly. You don't know who you're going to deal with. Do I have time for another one? No time? All right. That's a shame because this was a great question, Alan W. All right. We're going to take you 5,000 miles away to Africa to catch up with Dana, who's on a humanitarian mission with a great organization called Mercy Ships. Dana, straight ahead.
Welcome back to The Five. 3 years ago, Dana Perino went to the Congo to raise awareness about an amazing charity called Mercy Ships, which provides free health care in underdeveloped countries to those in need. And she is now back in Africa. This time it's in Benin. Excited to tell us about Mercy's mission there. Dana, how are things going in Africa?
So far, so good. We arrived a couple of days ago. We are on a ship. It's a surgical hospital ship called Mercy Ships. My first day was a little rough. In the morning, I was very sick, so I had morning sickness. But it really wasn't morning sickness. I was just motion sick in the morning, so I didn't want anyone to start any rumors. But this is a little bit of different trip than before, because in Congo, we arrived on the very first day, so that was the assessment, where 7,500 people lined up to see if they were a candidate for surgery. This is a little bit different. The ship has been in Benin for 10 months, so they are wrapping things up, but they do several surgeries a day. Peter, my husband, and Aaron Landers that's with me, they actually were able to watch the whole thing. I'm too squeamish, I wasn't able to. But we've really experienced a lot of things. We saw a celebration of sight today, which was all sorts of people. They did 70 cataract surgeries this week alone. So this was a celebration of all of these people who had been blind for a long time now being able to see. So it's been fabulous.
All right, Dana, where do the doctors come from? I saw in part of the report, and by the way, I'm just so envious. You are such a good spirit. But I saw in the report that about a third of the people who come to the ship are Americans. What about the doctors?
Well, they have, this is a ship that is all volunteers, and so yes, they have a lot of medical staff. There are doctors. The doctor I interviewed on Facebook Live last night is Dr. Mark Schreim. He's from Harvard University and quite talented and a really wonderful person who comes twice a year for a month. They tease him that they save the hardest cases for him to work on. But then you have nurses, you have operating managers, you have supply managers. But in addition to that, just like if you were thinking about a military operation, you have a lot of support staff. So you have people everybody on the ship needs to eat. So you have that whole operation, plus you have communications and also assessments, as well as security. You know, the Gurkhas are our security here on the ship, and we are in very good hands, I have to say.
Dana, you and I don't see eye to eye in politics sometimes, but I have to take my time and just say I am so extremely proud of what you're doing for Mercy Ships. It really takes a big heart to do what you're doing. Where can I donate, and where can people donate to help out the cause?
Well, that's kind of you to say. I mean, I don't think politics really has any place in it at all for me or for you. And people that support the ship come from all sorts of different walks of life. MercyShips.org is where people could donate if they want, and they can also try to find out if they want to work on the ship. In fact, Eric, they need right now a car mechanic. So if there's anybody out there that is looking to give back, wants to serve in a great mission, they actually need a car mechanic like right now.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Dana, it's Lisa. You've talked a little bit about some of the stuff that you've done, but what does a typical day look like for a volunteer?
Well, it depends. In fact, I just saw a nurse who was about an hour ago. She was starting the night shift. It is actually just like a hospital. So there's 24-hour operation for care. In fact, today we got to go up to a dock, Dock 7 they call it, where all the patients got to go outside for a little while and get some fresh air. And we played Connect 4 with one of the patients who is quite skilled and beat me twice. I beat him once, but he beat me twice, beat Peter twice. Everybody apparently on the ship, all the volunteers that play with him, lose. So they try to find a way to pass the time. There's a lot of operational things that have to go on, like keeping the ship afloat, right? The engineering staff is something that's really important here as well. So the medical team is incredibly important, but they're only able to do their work because of all the support staff as well.
Dana, this is Greg. Good job so far. If you are actually there, I noticed that you're standing in front of a painting that could easily be on 1211 6th Avenue on the 12th floor, so I'll be checking around later for you. I'm curious, when you're there, are there refreshments there for you? Is there like a bar?
There is no bar, but there is a Starbucks.
Really?
Like a legit Starbucks, yes. And now it is run by the volunteers, but yes, they have all sorts of delicious coffees and things that you could get. But there's no bar. But we did go to a bar tonight. We went and saw a concert. We only were there for a couple of songs. But the Beninois are apparently very good singers and are known for that. So we went and saw a little bit of that today. And there's lots of fans of the Five here on the ship, though they're having a little trouble with the satellite. They're not able to get Fox News right now. No. They get Fox Crime, but not Fox News.
All right, quickly, Dana, we only have about 20 seconds left. So far, what is your favorite miracle that you've seen on the ship?
Well, there's a little boy named Emmanuel who is about 13 months old. He's got everybody in the palm of his hand. He had quite a lot of difficulties, but he is being healed after surgery. He's recovering well, and because now he feels better and he is able to eat, his personality is really coming through. So Peter had a chance to walk with him today. I showed him pictures of Jasper on my phone, but then he started crying, so I figure he could be Greg Gutfeld's best friend for about 10 years.
All right, Godspeed, Dana. Get back safely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
One more thing is coming up next. Stay right here.
Time for one more thing, and Greg kicks us off.
All right, Saturday night, 10 p.m., the Greg Gutfeld Show. We have Kennedy. And we got Walter Kern, who wrote Up in the Air and a load of great books, so he'll be there. Along with Tyrus and Kat, it's going to be a great, great show. But now it's time for this. Greg's Media News. All right, this is the greatest media hit in the history of all media hits. Professor Robert Kelly doing a Skype interview for BBC. He's an expert on South Korea. So he's in South Korea. He's doing this interview. This is what happens. Let's roll the tape, for God's sake.
The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do.
Another one. Here comes the other one. My goodness. Right there, he's just feeling pain.
For the region.
There you go.
I meant to have that lock fixed.
Yeah. This has happened to all of us at one point in our lives. Somebody's walked in on us while we're doing something else.
Why we all hate Skype.
Yes.
Being on the other side of the camera. All right, Juan, your turn.
So archaeologists, we all know, go out into the desert or remote canyons to dig and find things that were ancient. But how about your backyard? Yesterday in the big city in Cairo, Egyptians came across an amazing find. They found a 3,000-year-old statue depicting warrior legend Ramses II. And it's being called one of the most important archaeological discoveries in Egyptian history. So far, they've removed the head of the statue with a forklift, and they're working on extracting the torso with a total statue height of 26 feet tall.
Only 3,000 years? Call me when it's like 3 million.
Oh, okay.
The statue's so thick you can eat it with a forklift.
All right, I'll go next tonight. Can you put up the full screen? A big O'Reilly factor. This is going to be a live show tonight. We have Kellyanne Conway, Rand Paul, Brad Sherman, a Democrat from California, and also Rick Grinnell. President Trump's agenda 50 days in, what we can look forward to the next 50 and therefore and forward. Leaks, CIA, wiretaps, healthcare, Russia, all of it. Make sure you tune in at 8 o'clock. By Kennedy, you're up.
Must watch, absolutely. We know that the weather has been absolutely crazy. Thanks, Al Gore. Yesterday in New York, it was 60 degrees. Today, it's snowing. And in Ohio, no stranger to wind. Here's a 4-year-old girl, Madison, caught on her family's security footage opening the door. And it swings open with the gust with her riding along with it. Incredible upper body strength that this young toddler shows. It's incredible. She doesn't fall. She has the wherewithal to cry for her mom. She doesn't panic. She got pinned between the door and the house, but was not harmed at all. And her mom, in great relief, posted the video.
I hope the door's okay.
Oh, gosh. It looks like it could have been fun, though.
Yeah, I know, right? Next windstorm, all the kids are going to be doing it.
She's holding a phone in the other hand and did this held on with one hand.
No.
That's insane, right?
Yeah.
Right?
She's got incredible upper body.
Where'd the video come from? Is that security?
Footage. Yeah, that's on security footage.
All right, well, little kids are making this easy on us because I have another little nugget. This little tater tot, 2-year-old boy meeting the Queen of England. You would think that most kids or most people would be excited about meeting the Queen of England or at least impressed by it. This little kid was not. His name is Alfie Lunn, and he was supposed to hand the Queen flowers at the unveiling of a new war memorial. Instead, he decided to throw a tantrum. But the best part of it is looking at the Queen's face because she did not blink an eye. I bet at 90 years old, this is not her first rodeo. Eventually, his mom picked him up, and he did hand the flowers over. So he ended up doing his job.
What's his name?
It's Alfie Lunn.
There's a British name.
Well,
Alfie.
Look, his parents
What's it all
put him
about,
on
Alfie?
the spot. He's not a puppet.
Crying Alfie.
Do whatever they want.
Crying Alfie.
He's not a corgi, that's for sure.
She is a delight,
Lots of
the
kids.
Queen, a delight. An absolute delight. I love the Queen.
Big monarchist from way
Yes,
back, huh,
yes.
The rodeo, the Queen's rodeo. What do you?
No, I said it's not her first
come on.
rodeo. She's a queen. Do you know how much stuff she's seen? How many people she's encountered?
Set your
Not rodeo.
DVRs so you never miss an episode of 5. That's it for us. Special report next. Don't forget, O'Reilly 8.
Halfway through President Trump's first 100 days, the jobs market surges, a health care bill struggles, and turmoil shakes what may be the most dangerous neighborhood in the world. This is Special Report. Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. 50 days into the Trump presidency, there are growing concerns about how the U.S. will deal